The ground beneath you holds stories from billions of years ago. Right now, as you rest, ancient rock supports your weight. Life has existed on Earth for 3.8 billion years, most of it invisible to us, most of it forgotten. But the atoms that built that ancient life still exist, recycled endlessly through stone and sea and sky. Some of those atoms are in you now. You are made of deep time, connected to every moment that came before. If you find peace in these facts about prehistoric life, please like this video and subscribe to our channel. We create journeys like this regularly, exploring the ancient world while helping you prepare for sleep. Leave a comment telling us where you're watching from tonight and what time it is there. Right now, you rest on rock formed millions or billions of years ago. The planet beneath your building, beneath the soil and concrete, is ancient stone. Some of that rock solidified when dinosaurs walked above it. Some formed before life existed at all. The ground is a record of unimaginable time, layer upon layer of history pressed into stone. You live on top of this record, supported by deep time you'll never see, but that's always there. The atoms in your body were forged in ancient stars. Hydrogen and helium formed in the Big Bang, but heavier elements needed stars. Carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, all the elements essential for life, were created inside stars through nuclear fusion. When those stars died, they scattered these elements into space. Clouds of star stuff eventually condensed into new solar systems, including ours. The atoms that make you were once inside a star, burning bright billions of years ago. Carbon cycles through life endlessly. The carbon atoms in your body right now have been parts of countless organisms before you. Some carbon in your cells might once have been in a dinosaur's bone. That Tyrannosaurus that died 66 million years ago decayed, its atoms returning to soil, then absorbed by plants, eaten by animals, cycled through the food web millions of times. Some of those exact atoms eventually became part of you. The calcium in your bones came from ancient seas. Billions of years ago, Earth's oceans dissolved minerals from rocks. Tiny sea creatures used this dissolved calcium to build shells. When they died, shells accumulated on the ocean floor, eventually forming limestone. That limestone eroded, releasing calcium back into water and soil. Plants absorbed it. Animals ate the plants. The calcium cycled through ecosystems for eons. The same calcium atoms that built trilobite shells 400 million years ago might now be in your skeleton. Iron in your blood has an even older story. Iron forms only in the cores of massive stars. When these stars explode as supernovae, iron scatters into space. Our solar system formed from a cloud containing iron from multiple dead stars. That ancient stellar iron made its way into Earth, eventually into your bloodstream, where it carries oxygen. Every breath depends on iron that once existed in dying stars. Every breath you take connects you to Earth's ancient atmosphere. The air around you has been recycled countless times through billions of years of life. Early organisms transformed Earth's atmosphere, adding oxygen that wasn't there before. Cyanobacteria appeared over 2 billion years ago, producing oxygen through photosynthesis. Gradually, over hundreds of millions of years, oxygen accumulated. The air you breathe exists because ancient microbes changed the planet's chemistry. The oxygen you inhale might have passed through a dinosaur's lungs. Air molecules cycle through living things constantly. A breath you take today contains atoms that dinosaurs breathed 100 million years ago. Those same atoms passed through ancient forests, through Ice Age mammals, through every creature that ever lived. You share breath with all of history. Water cycles the same way. The water you drink is ancient, recycled endlessly through oceans and clouds and living things. Some water molecules in your body were once in prehistoric seas, when strange creatures swam in warm, shallow waters. That same water fell as rain on dinosaurs, flowed through ancient rivers, froze in ice ages, melted again. Water connects you to every age of Earth's history. You are built from recycled pieces of the ancient world. Nothing in you is new. Every atom has a history stretching back billions of years, through stars and planets and countless lives. You are made of the same substance as trilobites and dinosaurs and early mammals. The boundary between you and prehistoric life is thinner than you think. You're not separate from that ancient world. You're made of it, continuing its story in this present moment. 1 million years is almost incomprehensible. Try to imagine it. 1 million days is about 2,740 years, longer than recorded history. 1 million years is 1,000 times longer than that. Your mind can't truly grasp it. And yet, 1 million years is brief in Earth's history, a thin slice of geological time. 1 billion years is 1,000 million years. The distances are so vast that human experience provides no reference point. Prehistoric life unfolded across these vast spans slowly, patiently. Individual creatures lived and died in their ordinary spans, days or years or decades. But species emerged gradually over thousands of generations. A dinosaur species might exist for 2 million years before evolving into something different or going extinct. During those 2 million years, millions of individual dinosaurs lived and died, each one experiencing a normal lifetime, unaware of the slow changes happening across generations. Changes happened too slowly to perceive. If you could watch evolution in real time, you'd see nothing. A parent and child look essentially identical. Even a creature and its great-great-grandchild appear the same. The changes are too small to notice in a single lifetime. Only when looking back across thousands or millions of generations do the changes become visible. A species gradually shifts, adapting to changing conditions so slowly that no individual ever experiences the transformation. This slow pace is soothing. Nothing rushed in prehistoric time. Evolution had endless time to experiment. There was no deadline, no urgency. Mutations appeared randomly. Most did nothing or caused harm. Occasionally, one helped survival. That helpful mutation spread slowly through the population over many generations. This process repeated countless times, each small change building on previous changes, complexity emerging gradually from simplicity. The rock record shows this patience. Sediment accumulates slowly, particles settling from water or air, building up layer by layer. In some environments, a centimetre of sediment might represent 1,000 years. A metre might represent 100,000 years. The Grand Canyon's layers span nearly 2 billion years of accumulation. Standing at the bottom, you're on rock that formed when Earth was young. Walking up through the canyon, you walk through time, each layer representing an era. The whole canyon, a book of Earth's history written in stone. Fossils in those layers appear and disappear as you move through time. Lower layers contain only simple organisms. Higher layers show more complex life. the sequence never reverses. You never find mammals below dinosaurs or dinosaurs below trilobites. The order is consistent worldwide. Evidence that life changed directionally through time, simple to complex, though the path was not straight and progress was not inevitable. Continental drift occurred on geological timescales. The continents you know are temporary arrangements. They've been positioned differently throughout Earth's history, sometimes joined as supercontinents, sometimes separated. The movement is slow, a few centimeters per year, about the rate your fingernails grow. But over millions of years, continents traverse entire oceans. India was once separated from Asia by ocean. It crashed into Asia about 50 million years ago, the collision pushing up the Himalayas. The mountains are still rising, pushed upward by the continuing collision, though the movement is too slow to perceive. Climate changed gradually too, though with some rapid shifts. Overall, Earth alternated between warmer periods and cooler periods over millions of years. Ice ages came and went, each lasting tens of thousands of years, separated by warmer periods of similar duration. These cycles reflect orbital variations and other factors operating on long timescales. Life adapted to each change, species shifting their ranges, evolving new traits, or going extinct if change was too rapid. Mass extinctions punctuate this slow history with relatively rapid catastrophes. Even these rapid events usually unfolded over thousands or millions of years. The Permian extinction, Earth's worst, killed 90% of species. But it probably took hundreds of thousands of years for the full catastrophe to play out. From a human perspective, that's incredibly long. From a geological perspective, it's a blink, a sudden crisis in otherwise slow change. Between the catastrophes, life existed in quasi-stability. Species persisted for long spans. Ecosystems remained recognizable for millions of years. Change occurred, but slowly enough that the world seemed stable from generation to generation. This is the normal state of life. Long periods of relative stability, punctuated by shorter periods of change. We live in one such stable period, though human activity is accelerating change unnaturally. The slow pace of deep time puts human urgency in perspective. Your problems are real but temporary. Your life is brief against geological time, but meaningful in the present. Prehistoric life teaches patience. It shows that nothing is truly permanent, that everything changes eventually, but also that change is usually gradual. There's comfort in this perspective, in seeing your moment as part of a vast, slow dance of time, one brief note in an endless ancient song. The first life was simple, single cells in ancient oceans. No eyes to see the world, no ears to hear, no brain to process complex thoughts. Just simple existence, basic chemistry enclosed in a membrane, responding to the environment in the most basic ways. These first organisms appeared roughly 3.8 billion years ago, though the exact timing is uncertain. The evidence is subtle, chemical signatures in ancient rocks that might indicate life. For billions of years, only microbes existed. This is the longest chapter of life's story. Yet, it's the one we know least about. Bacteria and archaea, microscopic single cells, were Earth's only inhabitants for nearly 2 billion years. They lived in oceans, in hot springs, in soil. They reproduced by dividing, one cell becoming two. Some used sunlight for energy, others consumed chemicals from volcanic vents. They were diverse in their chemistry, but simple in their structure. These microbes didn't know they were preparing the world for complex life. They had no awareness, no goals. They simply existed, reproducing when conditions allowed, dying when conditions didn't. But their collective activity changed the planet fundamentally. Photosynthetic bacteria produced oxygen as waste. Initially, this oxygen reacted with dissolved iron in seawater, precipitating out as rust-colored bands in ancient rocks. Eventually, the oceans saturated with oxygen, and it began entering the atmosphere. This oxygen accumulation was catastrophic for many organisms. Oxygen was toxic to life forms adapted to an oxygen-free world. A wave of extinction likely occurred as oxygen levels rose. But this catastrophe created opportunity. Oxygen is chemically reactive, and organisms that could harness it gained access to much more energy than anaerobic processes provide. Oxygen-breathing organisms eventually dominated, ancestors of all complex life. The pace of this change was incomprehensibly slow. The rise of atmospheric oxygen took hundreds of millions of years. No organism experienced the transformation. Each generation lived in conditions essentially identical to their parents' conditions. The change was real, but glacially slow, visible only in retrospect across vast time. Complex cells appeared about 2 billion years ago. Another major transition. Eukaryotic cells, with internal structures including a nucleus, were much larger and more complex than bacteria. The origin of eukaryotes remains somewhat mysterious, but it likely involved one cell engulfing another, forming a symbiotic relationship. The engulfed cell became mitochondria, the power plants of modern complex cells. This merger created the template for all complex life: plants, animals, fungi, all built from eukaryotic cells, descended from this ancient partnership. For another billion years, eukaryotes remained single-celled. They reproduced, evolved, diversified into many forms. But they didn't form colonies or multicellular structures. Life remained microscopic, invisible to any eye that didn't yet exist. This seems like stasis, a billion years of apparent changelessness. But evolution continued, refining cellular machinery, increasing genetic complexity, setting the stage for what came next. Multicellular life appeared around 600 to 800 million years ago. Simple colonies of cells working together, sharing resources, specializing in different functions. Some cells might handle reproduction, while others focused on gathering nutrients. This cooperation allowed larger size and new capabilities. The early multicellular organisms were simple, lacking most features we associate with animals or plants. But they were a new kind of organization, a fundamental transition. The Ediacaran period, from 635 to 541 million years ago, saw strange soft-bodied organisms in the oceans. Fossils show quilted, frond-like structures, organisms unlike anything alive today. Some looked like pancakes or mattresses lying on the seafloor. Others resembled ferns or feathers. Their biology remains mysterious. They might be early animals, or they might represent extinct experimental forms unrelated to modern life. They lived in a world before predators, before shells or teeth, a brief peaceful period in life's history. These simple organisms were patient. They didn't rush toward complexity. Each form existed for millions of years, reproducing successfully, filling available niches. Change happened when conditions changed, or when mutations created new possibilities. But there was no drive toward advancement, no goal of becoming more complex. Life simply persisted, adapted, continued. The ocean during these eons was different from today's seas. Initially, it lacked oxygen. Later, it contained oxygen, but different salinity and chemistry than modern oceans. Temperatures varied. Continental positions changed. Through all this, life adapted, simple organisms adjusting to whatever conditions existed, surviving through flexibility and time. Looking back at this immense stretch of microbial history creates perspective. For most of Earth's history, nothing complex existed. No animals, no plants, no sounds or colors or movement beyond drifting currents and settling particles. Just microscopic life, quietly changing the planet, building oxygen, creating the chemical conditions that would eventually allow your existence. Those simple cells, living and dying in ancient seas, unaware of their importance, prepared the world for everything that came after. Their patience, spanning billions of years, allowed the complexity that eventually included you. You descend from an unbroken line of survivors, reaching back to the first cell. Every ancestor in this chain successfully reproduced, passing life forward. This chain never broke, not once, through 3.8 billion years of history, millions of generations, each one surviving long enough to create the next. Your existence depends on this unbroken continuity, this chain of survival that somehow persisted through everything. Think about what this means. Every single one of your ancestors, going back millions of generations, survived to reproductive age. None died in childhood. None failed to find a mate. None was killed by predators or disease or accident before reproducing. The odds of this seem impossible, yet it happened. You exist because of a string of survivals so long and unlikely that contemplating it induces awe. Your ancestors include fish who left the water about 375 million years ago. Some fish living in shallow coastal waters began spending time on land. They had fleshy fins that could support weight, allowing them to crawl between pools when water levels fell. Over many generations, these fins became more leg-like. Lungs, which some fish already had for breathing air when water was oxygen poor, became more developed. These transitional forms, neither fully fish nor fully land animals, were your ancestors. One of these early tetrapods survived and reproduced. Their descendants spread across the land, diversifying into amphibians and then into reptiles. Your lineage passed through this transition, from water to land, from fins to legs. The specific individuals involved are lost to history, their names never recorded because names didn't exist. But they lived, struggled, survived, reproduced. Without them, you wouldn't exist. Later, ancestors developed eggs with shells, freeing vertebrates from returning to water to breed. This innovation, appearing about 320 million years ago in early reptiles, opened vast new territories. Reptiles could survive far from water, in deserts and mountains, anywhere adults could survive. Your lineage includes these early reptile ancestors, though the specific species is uncertain. Many lineages branched and died out. Yours persisted. The line split many times, some branches leading to dinosaurs, others to mammals. Your ancestors took the mammalian path, descending from small reptiles called synapsids. These weren't dinosaurs, but were living at the same time as early dinosaurs. They were modest creatures, many of them small and probably nocturnal. Avoiding the dominant dinosaurs through stealth and different ecological niches. Through the age of dinosaurs, your mammalian ancestors persisted. For over 160 million years, while dinosaurs dominated land ecosystems, your ancestors were small, probably mostly nocturnal, eating insects and seeds. They developed fur for insulation, allowing warm-bloodedness. They evolved better hearing and smell, senses useful in darkness. They began producing milk to feed young, the defining mammalian trait. These adaptations happened gradually, each generation slightly different from the previous. Then, 66 million years ago, the asteroid struck. Dinosaurs went extinct, except for birds. 3/4 of all species died, but some of your mammalian ancestors survived. They were small, generalist, able to find food in disrupted ecosystems. Perhaps they sheltered in burrows. Perhaps their small size meant they needed less food. Whatever factors helped, some mammals made it through when most animals didn't. In the aftermath, with dinosaurs gone, mammals diversified. Your ancestors were part of this radiation, the rapid evolution of new forms to fill empty ecological niches. Over millions of years, descendants of those small survivors became everything from whales to bats to elephants. Your specific line led to primates, tree-dwelling mammals with grasping hands and forward-facing eyes for depth perception. Early primates appeared about 55 million years ago. They were small, insect-eating creatures living in tropical forests. Over time, they diversified into many forms. Your ancestors were among them, though which specific species is debated. The fossil record of early primates is incomplete. We know the general story, but not all details. Eventually, the line led to apes, larger primates without tails. Then to hominids, apes that walked upright. Then to humans, hominids with large brains and complex culture. Each transition involved thousands of generations, each individual in the chain surviving long enough to reproduce. Every person alive today shares this basic story. All humans descend from the same ancient ancestors, if you go back far enough. We're all related, cousins separated by varying degrees. Going back before humans, all mammals share ancestors. Going back further, all vertebrates share ancestors. Back to the first cells, all life shares ancestors. The tree of life branches extensively, but all branches trace back to a single root. You carry genetic legacy from all these ancestors. Your DNA contains genes from ancient fish, from early reptiles, from mammalian ancestors, from primates, from early humans. Most of your genes are ancient, shared with many other species, because they were inherited from common ancestors. A small percentage are specifically human, the recent changes that make us distinct. But the foundation is ancient, built over billions of years. Think about the improbability of your existence. Each ancestor had to survive in a world filled with dangers. Predators, disease, starvation, accidents, all threatened survival. Most individuals in most species died before reproducing, but in your direct line, not one failed. An unbroken chain of success, millions of generations long, brought you here. You represent the continuation of life itself. The newest link in the oldest chain, carrying forward a history that predates memory, consciousness, even complex life. You are the current expression of a process that began billions of years ago and continues through you. You descend from an unbroken line of survivors reaching back to the first cell. Every ancestor in this chain successfully reproduced, passing life forward. This chain never broke, not once, through 3.8 billion years of history. Millions of generations, each one surviving long enough to create the next. Your existence depends on this unbroken continuity, this chain of survival, that somehow persisted through everything. Think about what this means. Every single one of your ancestors, going back millions of generations, survived to reproductive age. None died in childhood. None failed to find a mate. None was killed by predators or disease or accident before reproducing. The odds of this seem impossible, yet it happened. You exist because of a string of survivals so long and unlikely that contemplating it induces awe. Your ancestors include fish who left the water. About 375 million years ago, some fish living in shallow coastal waters began spending time on land. They had fleshy fins that could support weight, allowing them to crawl between pools when water levels fell. Over many generations, these fins became more leg-like. Lungs, which some fish already had for breathing air when water was oxygen poor, became more developed. These transitional forms, neither fully fish nor fully land animals, were your ancestors. One of these early tetrapods survived and reproduced. Their descendants spread across the land, diversifying into amphibians and then into reptiles. Your lineage passed through this transition, from water to land, from fins to legs. The specific individuals involved are lost to history. Their names never recorded, because names didn't exist. But they lived, struggled, survived, reproduced. Without them, you wouldn't exist. Later, ancestors developed eggs with shells, freeing vertebrates from returning to water to breed. This innovation, appearing about 320 million years ago in early reptiles, opened vast new territories. Reptiles could survive far from water, in deserts and mountains, anywhere adults could survive. Your lineage includes these early reptile ancestors, though the specific species is uncertain. Many lineages branched and died out. Yours persisted. The line split many times, some branches leading to dinosaurs, others to mammals. Your ancestors took the mammalian path, descending from small reptiles called synapsids. These weren't dinosaurs, but were living at the same time as early dinosaurs. They were modest creatures, many of them small and probably nocturnal, avoiding the dominant dinosaurs through stealth and different ecological niches. Through the age of dinosaurs, your mammalian ancestors persisted. For over 160 million years, while dinosaurs dominated land ecosystems, your ancestors were small, probably mostly nocturnal, eating insects and seeds. They developed fur for insulation, allowing warm-bloodedness. They evolved better hearing and smell, senses useful in darkness. They began producing milk to feed young, the defining mammalian trait. These adaptations happened gradually, each generation slightly different from the previous. Then, 66 million years ago, the asteroid struck. Dinosaurs went extinct, except for birds. 3/4 of all species died, but some of your mammalian ancestors survived. They were small, generalist, able to find food in disrupted ecosystems. Perhaps they sheltered in burrows. Perhaps their small size meant they needed less food. Whatever factors helped, some mammals made it through when most animals didn't. In the aftermath, with dinosaurs gone, mammals diversified. Your ancestors were part of this radiation, the rapid evolution of new forms to fill empty ecological niches. Over millions of years, descendants of those small survivors became everything from whales to bats to elephants. Your specific line led to primates, tree-dwelling mammals with grasping hands and forward-facing eyes for depth perception. Early primates appeared about 55 million years ago. They were small, insect-eating creatures living in tropical forests. Over time, they diversified into many forms. Your ancestors were among them, though which specific species is debated. The fossil record of early primates is incomplete. We know the general story, but not all details. Eventually, the line led to apes, larger primates without tails. Then to hominids, apes that walked upright. Then to humans, hominids with large brains and complex culture. Each transition involved thousands of generations, each individual in the chain surviving long enough to reproduce. Every person alive today shares this basic story. All humans descend from the same ancient ancestors, if you go back far enough. We're all related, cousins separated by varying degrees. Going back before humans, all mammals share ancestors. Going back further, all vertebrates share ancestors. Back to the first cells, all life shares ancestors. The tree of life branches extensively, but all branches trace back to a single root. You carry genetic legacy from all these ancestors. Your DNA contains genes from ancient fish, from early reptiles, from mammalian ancestors, from primates, from early humans. Most of your genes are ancient, shared with many other species, because they were inherited from common ancestors. A small percentage are specifically human, the recent changes that make us distinct. But the foundation is ancient, built over billions of years. Think about the improbability of your existence. Each ancestor had to survive in a world filled with dangers. Predators, disease, starvation, accidents, all threatened survival. Most individuals in most species died before reproducing. But in your direct line, not one failed. An unbroken chain of success, millions of generations long, brought you here. You represent the continuation of life itself, the newest link in the oldest chain, carrying forward a history that predates memory, consciousness, even complex life. You are the current expression of a process that began billions of years ago and continues through you. About 540 million years ago, life in the oceans suddenly diversified. The Cambrian explosion, as paleontologists call it, produced most major animal body plans that exist today. This wasn't literally an explosion, but by geological standards, it happened quickly, over perhaps 20 million years. In that time, animals evolved complex features like eyes, hard shells, segmented bodies, and specialized appendages. Before the Cambrian, animals were simple and soft-bodied. The ediacaran organisms we discussed earlier lived peacefully, none hunting others as far as we can tell. Then something changed. Competition intensified, predation appeared, an evolutionary arms race began as prey evolved defenses and predators evolved better ways to hunt. This drove rapid innovation in body designs. Trilobites appeared, arthropods with segmented bodies and hard exoskeletons. They crawled across seafloors, eating detritus or hunting smaller creatures. Their compound eyes, among the first eyes in the fossil record, had hundreds of lenses allowing them to see their environment. Different trilobite species had different eye designs, some elaborate, others simple. They diversified into thousands of species, filling many ecological roles. Strange creatures emerged that don't fit modern categories. Anomalocaris was a swimming predator up to 1 meter long, huge by Cambrian standards. It had compound eyes on stalks, a circular mouth with tooth-like structures, and front appendages for grasping prey. Nothing alive today looks like Anomalocaris. It represents an extinct body plan, a solution to life's challenges that worked then but didn't persist. Hallucigenia was even stranger, a small worm-like creature with spines on top and tentacles on bottom, or perhaps the reverse. Its anatomy was so bizarre that scientists initially reconstructed it upside down. We now think it was related to velvet worms, a group that still exists, but is very different from Cambrian forms. Hallucigenia shows how experimental early animals were, trying body configurations that seem alien today. Opabinia had 5 eyes and a flexible proboscis with a grasping claw at the end. Wiwaxia was covered in scales and spines like a mobile pincushion. These creatures seem like fantasy, yet they really existed, swimming and crawling in Cambrian seas, their bizarre bodies perfectly functional for their environments. The Burgess Shale in Canada preserves a Cambrian ecosystem in exceptional detail. Usually, only hard parts fossilize, but the Burgess Shale preserved soft tissues as carbon films in fine sediment. This reveals the full community, predators and prey, showing how these strange animals interacted. The ecosystem was complex despite its age, with food chains, specialized niches, and ecological relationships. Nothing lived on land yet during the Cambrian. The continents were barren rock and sand, lifeless except perhaps for microbial mats near water. The ocean held all complex life. Shallow seas teemed with activity, but deeper water and open ocean remained largely empty. Most animals lived in coastal zones where sunlight reached the bottom. These animals had features we recognize. Segmented bodies appear in arthropods today. Shells protected soft bodies, like modern mollusks. Some Cambrian animals had notochords, the precursor to backbones, making them early relatives of all vertebrates, including us. The Cambrian established templates that evolution would modify for hundreds of millions of years. Why did this explosion happen? Several factors probably contributed. Oxygen levels in oceans had reached thresholds allowing larger, more active animals. Predation created strong selection pressure for defenses and better hunting abilities. Genetic innovations made complex development possible. Once body plan diversity began, it accelerated as animals adapted to each other's presence. The Cambrian explosion happened over 20 million years. From a human perspective, that's unimaginably slow. Thousands of generations passed between major innovations. No individual experienced the diversity explosion. Each animal lived a normal life in a slowly changing world. Only looking at the fossil record across millions of years does the explosive quality become apparent. Many Cambrian experiments didn't last. Most of the strange body plans went extinct without descendants. What seemed like successful designs proved to be evolutionary dead ends. Trilobites, incredibly successful in the Cambrian, persisted for 270 million years, but eventually went extinct without leaving modern descendants. Their body plan, once dominant, disappeared entirely. Other Cambrian animals left descendants that persist today. Some gave rise to modern arthropods like insects and crustaceans. Others led to mollusks, worms, echinoderms, and vertebrates. These lineages survived multiple mass extinctions, adapting through changing conditions, persisting when others failed. The Cambrian seas were quieter than modern oceans. No fish yet, no sharks or whales, no sounds of communication or hunting calls, just the movements of strange animals crawling and swimming in ancient waters, the beginning of complex animal life, a creative burst that established patterns lasting 500 million years. This explosion of diversity, this rapid trying of many body plans, created the foundation for all later animal life. Everything with a complex body, from insects to elephants, traces back to ancestors in the Cambrian. Those ancient experimental creatures, living briefly in their strange forms, were testing designs that would be refined and modified into everything that followed. The Cambrian was life-trying possibilities, most failing, but some succeeding brilliantly, creating lineages that would last hundreds of millions of years. The patient creativity of that ancient time, spread across 20 million years of experimentation, made possible the diversity that eventually included you. For most of Earth's history, land was lifeless. Life existed only in water, where it originated and where it remained for billions of years. The transition from water to land was one of the major events in life's history, opening vast new territories and creating possibilities that eventually led to all terrestrial life, including humans. Plants moved onto land first, beginning about 470 million years ago. The earliest land plants were simple, probably resembling modern liverworts or mosses. They had no roots, stems, or leaves in the modern sense, just simple structures clinging to wet soil near water. They required constant moisture because they hadn't yet evolved ways to prevent water loss. These pioneers survived only in the wettest environments. Over millions of years, plants evolved adaptations for land life. They developed cuticles, waxy coatings that reduced water evaporation. They evolved stomata, pores that could open for gas exchange and close to prevent water loss. They developed vascular tissue, specialized cells for transporting water and nutrients, allowing plants to grow taller and live farther from water sources. By 400 million years ago, plants had colonized substantial portions of land near water. Early forests appeared, though these weren't modern trees. The plants were tree-sized ferns, club mosses, and horsetails. Some grew to impressive heights, 30 meters or more, creating Earth's first forests. These coal forests, as they're called, because their remains became coal deposits, were strange by modern standards, dominated by plants that are now small and inconspicuous. Arthropods followed plants onto land. Millipedes and centipedes were probably among the first, crawling through the leaf litter of early forests. Early insects appeared, initially wingless, later evolving flight in one of evolution's great innovations. In the oxygen-rich atmosphere of the Carboniferous period, some arthropods grew enormous. Dragonflies with 70-centimeter wingspans flew through ancient forests. Millipedes a meter long crawled across the forest floor. Amphibians emerged from fish, the first vertebrates on land. They evolved from lobe-finned fish, whose fleshy fins could support weight and whose lungs allowed air breathing. The transition took millions of years, countless generations gradually adapting to terrestrial existence. Early amphibians still needed water for reproduction, laying eggs in water like modern frogs and salamanders. They were tied to aquatic environments even as adults, never venturing far from water sources. These early forests were silent. Insects made no sounds yet, at least none we'd recognize. Amphibians might have croaked or called, but the soundscape was nothing like modern forests. No birds singing, no mammals calling, just the rustle of primitive plants in wind, and perhaps the chirping of early insects. The land was full of life, but eerily quiet to modern ears. The soil was different too, still developing the rich complexity of modern soil ecosystems. Early soils were largely weathered rock with plant material. The decomposer communities that break down dead material were simpler than today's. Fungi played crucial roles, as they do now, forming partnerships with plant roots, helping plants extract nutrients from poor soil. Oxygen levels fluctuated during this period, sometimes higher than today, sometimes lower. High oxygen periods allowed giant arthropods because insects breathe through diffusion, limited by oxygen availability. When oxygen levels dropped, maximum insect size decreased. These fluctuations reflected the balance between oxygen production by plants and consumption by organisms and geological processes. The transition to land happened independently in different lineages. Plants, arthropods, and vertebrates all colonized land through separate evolutionary paths, each solving similar problems in different ways. All needed ways to prevent drying out, to support body weight against gravity, to breathe air, to reproduce away from water. Evolution found solutions in each lineage. This transition took tens of millions of years. No individual organism experienced the shift from water to land. Each generation was slightly better adapted than the previous, the improvements accumulating imperceptibly. A fish-like ancestor gradually became more terrestrial across thousands of generations, until its descendants were recognizably amphibian. The change was real, but too slow to see happening. By 350 million years ago, land ecosystems were well established and complex. Forests covered much of the land. Arthropods filled many niches. Amphibians hunted in and around water. The barren continents of earlier ages had transformed into living landscapes, though still very different from modern environments. Reptiles hadn't evolved yet, nor had mammals, birds, or flowering plants. The land plants of this era eventually became coal. Their remains, buried in swamps, compressed over millions of years into the coal seams we mine today. Burning coal releases carbon that plants captured from the atmosphere hundreds of millions of years ago. Ancient sunlight stored in stone, energy from the Carboniferous forests, now powering modern civilization. The colonization of land expanded life's possibilities immensely. Water environments are constrained by buoyancy and temperature. Land offers more varied environments, from deserts to mountains, from tropics to polar regions. The move to land set the stage for the incredible diversity of terrestrial life, all the complex adaptations of land animals and plants, all the ecosystems that eventually developed. Without this transition, you wouldn't exist. Your ancestors were among the creatures that made this move, gradually adapting from aquatic to terrestrial existence, spending millions of years perfecting the adaptations for land life. The patient colonization of a new frontier, one generation at a time, opened the world that eventually held human life. About 320 million years ago, reptiles evolved from amphibian ancestors. The crucial innovation was the amniotic egg, an egg with a shell and internal membranes that protected the developing embryo and provided it with fluids. This freed reptiles from dependence on water for reproduction. Amphibians had to return to water to lay eggs. Reptiles could lay eggs anywhere, even in dry environments far from water. This single adaptation opened vast territories. Reptiles spread across continents, into deserts, mountains, anywhere adults could survive. They diversified rapidly into many forms, some small and quick, others large and slow, predators and herbivores, burrowers and climbers. The Permian period, from 300 to 250 million years ago, saw reptile evolution flourish. Early reptiles were small, lizard-like creatures feeding on insects and plants. They had scales for protection and water retention, clawed feet for gripping, and jaws adapted for their diets. Different lineages emerged, each pursuing different evolutionary paths. Some became more mammal-like, developing features that would eventually lead to true mammals. Others remained more traditionally reptilian, leading toward dinosaurs and modern reptiles. Pelycosaurs dominated early reptile diversity. The most famous is Dimetrodon, often mistakenly called a dinosaur. It wasn't a dinosaur, it lived before dinosaurs existed. Dimetrodon had a large sail on its back, probably used for temperature regulation. It was a predator, hunting other reptiles and amphibians. Despite its fierce appearance, it was more closely related to mammals than to dinosaurs. It's part of the synapsid lineage that eventually produced mammals. Other pelycosaurs had different body plans. Some were herbivores, with specialized teeth for grinding plants. Some were small insectivores. The diversity shows how rapidly reptiles adapted to various niches. Within tens of millions of years, they filled many ecological roles that amphibians and arthropods previously occupied. The world during the Permian was different from today. All continents had joined into one supercontinent called Pangaea. This created a single vast landmass with limited coastline. The interior was far from moderating ocean influences, creating extreme seasonal temperature swings and arid conditions in the center. Climate zones ranged from polar ice to scorching deserts, all on one continuous landmass. Reptiles thrived in this world. They were better adapted than amphibians for dry conditions. Their scaly skin prevented water loss more effectively than amphibian skin. Their eggs could develop in dry environments. They were more mobile, able to travel long distances to find food or escape harsh conditions. These advantages allowed reptiles to dominate terrestrial ecosystems. Plants evolved too during this time. The great coal forests of the Carboniferous were declining, replaced by different plant communities. Conifers appeared, early relatives of modern pine trees. Seed ferns, which reproduced with seeds rather than spores, became common. These plants were better adapted to the drier conditions developing in Pangaea's interior. Herbivorous reptiles grew large. Some reached several meters in length. Massive plant eaters that consumed vast quantities of vegetation. Their size provided defense against predators and allowed them to reach high vegetation. Large predators evolved in response, creating an arms race of size and power. Not all reptiles were land-dwelling. Some returned to water, evolving into aquatic forms. This pattern repeats throughout evolution. Land animals occasionally return to water, adapting their terrestrial bodies for aquatic life. These Permian aquatic reptiles were not closely related to later marine reptiles or modern sea turtles. They represent an independent experiment in aquatic adaptation. The Permian climate changed over time, becoming more arid in many regions. Sea levels fluctuated. Volcanic activity increased in some areas. Life adapted to these changing conditions, but the adaptations took time. Species that couldn't adjust quickly enough went extinct. Others evolved, diversified, succeeded for a while, then also went extinct as conditions continued changing. Toward the end of the Permian, conditions deteriorated. Massive volcanic eruptions in Siberia lasted for hundreds of thousands of years, releasing enormous amounts of gases. Climate changed dramatically. Oceans acidified and lost oxygen. About 90% of species went extinct in what's called the Permian extinction, or the Great Dying. This was Earth's worst mass extinction, far worse than the one that killed the dinosaurs. The reptiles that survived were those that could tolerate the changed conditions, or that happened to live in areas less affected. After the extinction, ecosystems slowly rebuilt. New reptile groups emerged from the survivors. Among these were the ancestors of dinosaurs, small reptiles that would, over the next 50 million years, evolve into the dominant land animals of the Mesozoic. The Permian reptiles, both those that survived and those that went extinct, were experimenting with life on land. They tried different body sizes, different diets, different ways of moving and reproducing. Most of these experiments failed eventually, the lineages going extinct, but some succeeded brilliantly, giving rise to all later reptiles, including dinosaurs, and also to mammals through the synapsid line. The patient evolution of reptiles, spread across millions of years, created forms adapted to every terrestrial environment. They conquered land more completely than amphibians had, developing adaptations that freed them from water dependence. This success, interrupted by the Permian extinction, resumed afterward with new groups filling the emptied niches. The age of reptiles had begun, a period that would last over 200 million years and produce some of the most spectacular creatures ever to exist. Dinosaurs dominated land for 165 million years, from about 230 million to 65 million years ago. This time span is hard to comprehend. It's longer than the time since dinosaurs went extinct to now by a factor of more than 2. To put it in perspective, Stegosaurus lived closer in time to Tyrannosaurus rex than T-Rex lived to us. Dinosaurs weren't a brief chapter in Earth's history. They were the dominant form of land life for an immense period. The first dinosaurs were small, maybe the size of a modern turkey or dog. They appeared in the Triassic period, after the Permian extinction had cleared ecological niches. Early dinosaurs were bipedal, walking on 2 legs, probably quick and agile. They competed with other reptiles initially, but gradually became more successful and diverse. By the Jurassic period, dinosaurs had diversified into many forms. Sauropods, the long-necked herbivores, grew to immense sizes. Brachiosaurus, Diplodocus, and their relatives were the largest land animals that ever lived, some weighing 70 tons or more, standing several stories tall. These giants consumed hundreds of pounds of vegetation daily, browsing on treetops that other animals couldn't reach. Large predators evolved to hunt large prey. Allosaurus and later Tyrannosaurus rex were apex predators in their times. Massive theropods with powerful jaws and sharp teeth. But not all predatory dinosaurs were large. Many smaller theropods existed. Quick hunters that chased smaller prey or scavenged when opportunities arose. Armored dinosaurs developed defensive adaptations. Stegosaurus had bony plates along its back and spikes on its tail for defense. Ankylosaurs were covered in armor and had club-like tails they could swing at predators. These herbivores couldn't outrun threats, so they evolved protection instead, turning their bodies into mobile fortresses. Horned dinosaurs like Triceratops appeared later, in the Cretaceous. They had massive heads with horns and bony frills, probably used both for defense and for display in competition with other members of their species. They traveled in herds, large groups moving together for protection and to exploit food resources. Duck-billed dinosaurs, hadrosaurs, were successful herbivores with elaborate crests on their heads. These crests might have been used for sound production, creating low-frequency calls that resonated through forests. Herds of hadrosaurs might have communicated with these calls, coordinating movements or warning of predators. The world during the dinosaur age was warmer than today. There were no ice caps. Sea levels were higher, flooding continental interiors and creating shallow seas. Climates were generally mild, even at high latitudes, though seasons still existed. This warmth allowed dinosaurs to live in areas that are now too cold for large reptiles. Continents were positioned differently. Pangaea broke apart during the Mesozoic, separating into smaller continents that slowly moved to their current positions. This continental breakup created barriers between dinosaur populations. Different continents developed different dinosaur assemblages, though some groups were widespread. Plants evolved alongside dinosaurs. Conifers dominated during much of the Mesozoic, creating forests that fed herbivorous dinosaurs. Flowering plants appeared in the Cretaceous, rapidly diversifying and becoming the dominant plant group by the end of that period. This change in vegetation might have influenced late Cretaceous dinosaur evolution. Dinosaurs weren't solitary. Evidence suggests many species lived in groups. Fossil trackways show herds moving together. Nesting sites reveal colonial breeding, with many individuals nesting in the same area. Some species probably cared for young, protecting eggs and feeding hatchlings. Social behavior was likely common among many dinosaur groups. Communication probably involved visual displays, sounds, and possibly scent. The elaborate crests, horns, and plates, many dinosaurs had likely served display functions, signaling to potential mates or rivals. Colors, which rarely preserve in fossils, probably played roles in communication too. We can only guess at the specific colors, but modern reptiles and birds use color extensively for signaling. The Cretaceous period saw peak dinosaur diversity. Every terrestrial niche seemed filled by some dinosaur species. Small, medium, and large forms coexisted. Herbivores and carnivores of many types, fast runners and slow walkers. The diversity was immense, though still just a fraction of all the species that existed across the 165 million years of dinosaur evolution. Individual dinosaurs lived varied lifespans. Small species probably lived just a few years. Large sauropods might have lived 50 to 100 years or more. Each individual was born, grew, reproduced if lucky, and died, experiencing a normal life without knowledge of the vast timeline their species spanned. A T-Rex living its 30-year lifespan had no concept that its species would survive for 2 million years. Dinosaur ecosystems were complete and complex. Plants, herbivorous dinosaurs, carnivorous dinosaurs, smaller reptiles, early mammals, insects, all interacted in food webs as complex as modern ecosystems. Decomposers broke down dead material. Parasites infested hosts. Competition and cooperation occurred. These were fully functional ecosystems, not primitive prototypes, but refined communities shaped by millions of years of evolution. Then, 66 million years ago, the asteroid struck. The impact near modern Mexico created a global catastrophe. Debris blocked sunlight, plants died, herbivores starved, predators followed. 3/4 of species went extinct, including all non-bird dinosaurs. The 165 million year reign ended suddenly by geological standards, though the actual extinction unfolded over thousands of years. But dinosaurs didn't entirely disappear. Birds are living dinosaurs, descended from small theropods. The extinction eliminated large dinosaurs and many bird groups, but some birds survived. Today's 10,000 bird species are the continuation of the dinosaur lineage, the only dinosaurs that made it through the catastrophe. When you see a sparrow or eagle, you're seeing a living dinosaur, a descendant of the Mesozoic giants. The age of dinosaurs didn't end completely. It transformed, continuing in a new form adapted to the post-impact world. While dinosaurs dominated land, other reptiles conquered air and sea. The Mesozoic wasn't just the age of dinosaurs, but a time when reptiles filled almost every available niche on the planet. The skies held flying reptiles, unlike anything alive today. The oceans teemed with marine reptiles that had returned to aquatic life, adapting terrestrial bodies for swimming and hunting underwater. Pterosaurs were flying reptiles, not dinosaurs, though related to them. They evolved powered flight independently of birds and bats, using wings made of skin stretched between elongated forefingers and their bodies. The earliest pterosaurs appeared in the late Triassic, about 220 million years ago. They started small but diversified into many sizes and forms over the following 150 million years. Some pterosaurs remained small, sparrow-sized flyers with delicate builds. Others grew enormous. Quetzalcoatlus, one of the largest, had a wingspan exceeding 10 meters, comparable to a small airplane. It was the largest flying animal known to have existed. How such large animals achieved flight remains partly mysterious. They must have been extremely light, with hollow bones and efficient flight muscles. Pterosaurs likely had fur-like coverings, filamentous structures providing insulation. They were probably warm-blooded, maintaining active metabolisms necessary for sustained flight. Their wings were sophisticated, with adjustable membranes allowing precise control. They had large brains relative to body size, necessary for processing the complex information flight requires. Different pterosaur species fill different ecological niches. Some had teeth for catching fish, hovering over water and plunging to grab prey. Others were toothless, possibly filter feeding like modern flamingos. Some had elaborate crests on their heads, probably for display or species recognition. The diversity of forms suggests diverse lifestyles and diets. Pterosaurs went extinct, along with non-bird dinosaurs 66 million years ago. Birds, which had evolved from dinosaurs and were already diverse by the late Cretaceous, survived and filled the aerial niches pterosaurs left empty. No modern animals are closely related to pterosaurs. They represent an evolutionary experiment in flight that lasted 150 million years, then ended. The Mesozoic oceans held equally spectacular life. Marine reptiles evolved from land-dwelling ancestors multiple times, different lineages independently returning to the sea. Ichthyosaurs were the most fish-like, with streamlined bodies, dorsal fins, and tail flukes. They looked remarkably similar to modern dolphins, an example of convergent evolution, where different lineages evolve similar features for similar lifestyles. Ichthyosaurs were live-bearing, giving birth in water rather than laying eggs on land like sea turtles do. We know this from fossils showing embryos inside adults, or in the process of being born. They were fast swimmers, hunting fish and squid in open oceans. Some grew to impressive sizes, several meters long. They dominated Mesozoic oceans for over 150 million years before going extinct in the mid-Cretaceous, long before the end Cretaceous mass extinction. Plateosaurs were different, with long necks, small heads, and 4 paddle-like flippers. They swam by, rowing through water with their flippers, a unique swimming method. The long neck allowed them to reach fish, while keeping their large body at a distance. They existed from the Triassic through to the end of the Cretaceous, a lineage lasting nearly 170 million years. Mosasaurs appeared later, in the Cretaceous. They were related to modern monitor lizards, adapted for marine life with streamlined bodies and paddle-like limbs. They were predators, eating fish, ammonites, and other marine reptiles. Some grew to 15 meters, massive predators at the top of marine food chains. They dominated late Cretaceous oceans, but went extinct in the end Cretaceous event. The oceans also held ammonites, relatives of modern squid and octopus with coiled shells. They were incredibly diverse, thousands of species filling various niches. Their shells are common fossils, beautiful spirals that record growth patterns and sometimes preserve the shell's original colors or patterns. Ammonites existed for 300 million years, from the Devonian through the Cretaceous, but all went extinct 66 million years ago. Ancient fish swam in Mesozoic seas too. Sharks existed, some similar to modern forms, others very different. Bony fish were diverse, ancestors of most modern fish groups. The oceans were full of life at all scales, from tiny plankton to enormous predatory reptiles. The marine food chains were complex. Plankton formed the base, as in modern oceans. Small fish ate plankton. Larger fish ate smaller fish. Marine reptiles hunted fish and each other. The trophic levels stacked just as they do today. Energy flowing from sunlight through photosynthesis up through predators. These marine ecosystems existed for over 100 million years. Individuals were born, fed, reproduced, died, just like today. But the species involved were different, the particular forms shaped by Mesozoic conditions. The overall structure was similar to modern oceans, but the cast of characters was entirely different. The end Cretaceous impact affected marine life severely. The extinction killed ammonites completely, along with mosasaurs and many other groups. Marine ecosystems collapsed. It took millions of years for biodiversity to recover. The oceans refilled with new forms, descendants of the few survivors, creating the marine ecosystems we know today. The Mesozoic sky and sea were as full of life as the land. Pterosaurs gliding overhead, plesiosaurs swimming in shallow seas, mosasaurs prowling deeper waters. These animals were as real as dinosaurs, living complex lives in their environments. They hunted, escaped predators, found mates, raised young. They were sophisticated creatures, filling their worlds completely. That entire world, sky and sea and land, thrived for over 150 million years. Then it ended, and the world rebuilt itself differently. The Mesozoic oceans and skies are gone, replaced by ecosystems built from different survivors, using different solutions to similar challenges. But for their time, they worked perfectly, a complete world operating by the same ecological principles that govern today's world, just with different forms filling the roles. About 252 million years ago, Earth experienced its worst mass extinction. The Permian extinction, sometimes called the Great Dying, killed approximately 90% of marine species and 70% of terrestrial vertebrate species. It was the closest life has come to complete annihilation. Recovery took millions of years. The world that emerged afterward was fundamentally different from what came before. The cause was massive volcanic eruptions in Siberia, an event called the Siberian Traps. These weren't ordinary volcanoes. They were flood basalts, where lava poured from long fissures in Earth's crust, covering enormous areas. The eruptions lasted for hundreds of thousands of years, possibly up to 1 million years. Lava covered an area the size of Europe, sometimes hundreds of meters thick. The volcanic activity released staggering amounts of gases. Carbon dioxide and sulfur dioxide poured into the atmosphere. Climate changed dramatically. The carbon dioxide caused global warming, raising temperatures by perhaps 8 to 10 degrees Celsius. The sulfur dioxide created acid rain that damaged ecosystems on land and in the ocean. The combination was devastating. Oceans acidified as they absorbed carbon dioxide. Many marine organisms, especially those with calcium carbonate shells or skeletons, struggled to survive in more acidic water. The acidity dissolved their protective structures. Species that had thrived for millions of years found themselves in lethal conditions. Oxygen levels in the oceans dropped. Warmer water holds less dissolved oxygen. Combined with changes in ocean circulation, this created widespread anoxic zones, areas with too little oxygen to support most life. Organisms that required high oxygen levels died. Only those tolerant of low oxygen could persist in many ocean areas. On land, temperature increases and changing rainfall patterns disrupted ecosystems. Some areas became too hot or dry for life. Plants, stressed by heat and changed water availability, died or failed to reproduce. Herbivores lost food sources. Predators lost prey. Food chains collapsed from the bottom up. The extinction didn't happen instantly. It unfolded over thousands or tens of thousands of years. Individual organisms experienced normal lives in slowly degrading environments. Each generation faced slightly worse conditions than the previous. The cumulative effect was catastrophic, but the pace was slow enough that no individual witnessed the full collapse. Ecosystems simplified as extinction progressed. Diverse communities with many species became simpler communities with fewer species. Specialists, organisms adapted to specific conditions or diets, died out first. Generalists, able to eat various foods or tolerate various conditions, survived longer. But even many generalists eventually succumbed as conditions continued deteriorating. Some environments were hit harder than others. Tropical marine ecosystems, typically the most diverse, suffered worst. Polar regions, while affected, fared slightly better. Shallow seas lost more species than deep water. The pattern of survival was patchy, not uniform across the planet. The few survivors were those that happened to tolerate the new conditions or lived in less affected areas. There was no grand plan or superior fitness. Survival was partly luck, being in the right place with the right tolerances when catastrophe struck. These survivors became ancestors of all later life. Recovery was slow. For millions of years after the extinction, ecosystems remained simple. The few surviving species spread into empty niches, but biodiversity stayed low. It took about 10 million years for ecosystems to approach pre-extinction complexity. New species evolved from the survivors, gradually refilling the world. The extinction reset life's trajectory. Dominant groups before the Permian died out or declined to minor roles. New groups emerged from obscure survivors, becoming dominant in the post-extinction world. The Permian extinction cleared the stage for the age of dinosaurs. If it hadn't happened, dinosaurs might never have become dominant. The world would have followed a different evolutionary path. This teaches perspective. even the worst catastrophe didn't end life. 90% died, but 10% survived. Those survivors were enough. Life rebuilt, diversified, continued. The resilience is impressive. Life persists despite catastrophes that seem unsurvivable. It also teaches impermanence. The world before the Permian extinction seemed stable. Species had existed for millions of years. Ecosystems were established. Then everything changed. Stability is always temporary. Change, even catastrophic change, is part of Earth's history. No state lasts forever. The organisms dying in the Permian extinction had no awareness of the larger event. Each individual simply lived until it couldn't anymore. For them, life ended normally, from predation or starvation or disease. Immediate causes rather than the grand catastrophe visible only from historical perspective. Experience is always local and immediate, even during global events. The survivors didn't know they were survivors. They simply continued living in changed conditions. They adapted where possible, died where adaptation failed. The lineages that persisted did so through continuation, not through conscious survival strategies. Life continued because some organisms happened to tolerate the New World. Millions of years later, the Permian extinction is a layer in rock, a boundary where fossils change dramatically. Below the boundary, diverse Permian species. Above, the survivors and their descendants. The catastrophe is compressed into a geological instant, evidence of rapid change visible in stone. The millions of years of slow recovery that followed are also recorded, layer upon layer of sediment containing evolving communities. Tonight, as you consider the great dying, remember that life persisted. The worst didn't prove to be the end. Survivors rebuilt the world. That rebuilt world eventually led to you. The catastrophe was real. The suffering of dying organisms was real. But the continuation was also real. Life's resilience, tested to its limits, proved sufficient. The story didn't end with the extinction. It continued, changed but unbroken. Patient life, rebuilding after disaster, creating new forms, new ecosystems, new possibilities, demonstrating that even the worst moments pass and new beginnings follow. 65 million years ago, an asteroid 6 miles wide struck Earth near what is now Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula. The impact created a crater 110 miles across and released energy equivalent to billions of nuclear weapons. The collision marked the end of the Cretaceous period and the extinction of 3/4 of all species, including all non-bird dinosaurs. The asteroid hit at tremendous speed, perhaps 40,000 miles per hour. On impact, it vaporized instantly along with the rock it struck. The explosion created a fireball that radiated outward, incinerating everything within hundreds of miles. The shockwave flattened forests across continents. Earthquakes magnitudes beyond anything in recorded history shook the entire planet. Debris thrown into the atmosphere created immediate darkness. Pulverized rock, vaporized asteroid, and soot from global fires filled the sky, blocking sunlight. Temperatures dropped as the sun's warmth couldn't reach Earth's surface. This impact winter lasted months or years, depending on location. In darkness and cold, photosynthesis stopped. Plants died without sunlight. First, the smaller plants, then shrubs, eventually even large trees in many areas. The plant die-off happened over months to years, a relatively rapid collapse by geological standards, but slow enough that individual plants experienced normal death rather than instant destruction. Seeds remained viable in many species, waiting for light to return. Herbivorous dinosaurs starved as vegetation disappeared. Small herbivores died first, their high metabolisms requiring constant food. Large herbivores survived longer on stored fat and any remaining plants, but eventually they too succumbed. The death wasn't instant. Animals weakened gradually, became sick, died from starvation's effects. It took time, perhaps years, for herbivore populations to collapse completely. Carnivorous dinosaurs followed their prey into extinction. With herbivores dying, predators lost food sources. Scavenging on dead herbivores sustained them temporarily. But as those carcasses were consumed and no new prey appeared, carnivores starved too. The largest predators, needing the most food, probably died relatively quickly. Smaller carnivores might have survived on insects, small mammals, or carrion, but eventually food chains collapsed completely. Not everything died immediately. The extinction unfolded over thousands of years. Some estimates suggest up to 30,000 years, from impact to full ecosystem collapse. Different regions experienced different timelines. Areas closer to the impact suffered worse initial damage. Remote areas might have escaped the immediate catastrophe, but still lost species as global effects accumulated. Marine ecosystems collapsed too. Darkness killed photosynthetic plankton, the foundation of ocean food chains. Without plankton, small fish starved. Without small fish, larger fish and marine reptiles starved. The extinction worked its way up food chains in the ocean, as it did on land. Marine life had nowhere to hide from the disruption. Some creatures survived. Small mammals made it through, perhaps sheltering in burrows where they were protected from immediate impacts. Birds, descended from dinosaurs, mostly went extinct, but some species survived. Crocodiles and turtles, ancient lineages that had persisted through previous extinctions, survived again. Insects, with their small size and varied diets, largely survived. The survivors were generally small, adaptable generalists. They could eat varied foods, tolerate changed conditions, and needed less total food than large specialists. They sheltered in burrows, underwater, or other protected places during the worst of the catastrophe. No large land animals survived. Nothing over about 50 pounds made it through. Size became a death sentence. Recovery began slowly. As debris settled and sunlight returned, plants regrew from seeds and roots. Pioneer species colonized devastated landscapes. Ecosystems rebuilt from the bottom up. Survivors spread into empty niches. Evolution began filling the spaces left by extinct species. The recovery took millions of years. For the first million years after the impact, ecosystems remained simple and low in diversity. Gradually, over subsequent millions of years, complexity increased. New species evolved from survivors. Mammals, freed from dinosaur dominance, diversified into countless new forms. The asteroid strike was chance, a cosmic accident. The asteroid happened to cross Earth's orbit at the exact moment Earth was passing through that point in space. A slight difference in timing, and it would have missed entirely. The dinosaurs would have continued their dominance. Mammals might never have diversified. Humans might never have evolved. This illustrates contingency in evolution. History doesn't follow predetermined paths. Chance events shape outcomes dramatically. The asteroid changed everything, ending one era and beginning another. The Mesozoic ended suddenly. The Cenozoic, the age of mammals, began in the aftermath. Dinosaurs had dominated for 165 million years. They seemed permanent, as if they would last forever, but permanence is illusion. Everything ends eventually. The dinosaurs' 165 million year run ended in catastrophe. Nothing is truly stable in deep time. Change, even catastrophic change, eventually comes for everything. Yet life continued. The extinction was severe, but not total. 10% or more of species survived. Those survivors were enough. Life rebuilt, adapted, persisted. The post-impact world was different, dominated by different groups, but life itself continued unbroken. The story didn't end with the asteroid. It transformed, entered a new chapter, continued forward, through the survivors toward the present, toward you. The catastrophe was real, but so was the continuation. Both are part of the story. The ending of one age making space for the beginning of another. Most creatures that die don't fossilize. They decay completely, consumed by bacteria, insects, and scavengers. Within weeks or months, flesh disappears. Within years, bones break down into component minerals. The organism's atoms scatter, recycled into soil, water, air. Nothing remains to show it existed. This is the normal fate of death, complete recycling leaving no trace. Fossilization requires specific conditions. The body must be buried quickly, before decay destroys it. This usually happens in water environments where sediment settles constantly. A fish dies and sinks to the bottom. Mud covers it before scavengers find it. Or a land animal dies near a river during flood season. Rushing water buries it in sediment. Speed is crucial. Hours or days can mean the difference between preservation and complete destruction. The sediment must have the right chemistry. Mineral-rich water is ideal. As water percolates through buried remains, it deposits minerals in spaces left by decaying tissue. Calcium carbonate, silica, or iron compounds gradually replace organic material. The process happens slowly, molecule by molecule, the original structure maintained even as substance changes. Bone preserves most readily because it already contains minerals. The mineral structure of bone, mostly calcium phosphate, provides a template. Minerals from surrounding sediment replace bone minerals, creating a stone replica of the original bone. The shape, down to microscopic details, transfers from bone to stone. Soft tissue rarely preserves. Flesh, organs, skin, these decay too quickly in most conditions. Only in exceptional circumstances do soft tissues leave traces. Very fine sediment, low oxygen environments, or rapid mineral infiltration might preserve impressions. We occasionally find fossils showing skin texture, feather patterns, or even internal organs. But these are rare treasures, exceptions to the usual preservation of hard parts only. Pressure from accumulating sediment helps preservation. As layers pile up, the weight compresses lower layers, squeezing out water and space. The buried organism gets flattened and compacted along with surrounding sediment. This pressure, combined with chemical changes, transforms soft sediment into hard rock. The fossil becomes part of that rock, inseparable from the matrix around it. Time completes the transformation. The process takes thousands to millions of years. There's no rushing it. The buried organism sits in darkness, while minerals slowly replace its substance. Above, the world changes. Seas advance and retreat. Climates shift. New species evolve. The fossilizing organism notices none of this. It's stone, unchanging, patient, waiting. Not all fossils are bones. Sometimes organisms leave only impressions. a jellyfish settles on fine mud, dies, decays. The impression of its body remains in the sediment, which then hardens to rock. The jellyfish itself is gone, but its shape is preserved as a depression. These trace fossils show that something existed without preserving the actual organism. Footprints fossilize similarly. A dinosaur walks across wet mud. The footprints dry and harden. Later flooding covers them with more sediment. The tracks are buried and preserved. Millions of years later, erosion reveals them. The dinosaur's body is long gone, perhaps fossilized elsewhere or completely lost. But its footprints remain, evidence of its passage through that ancient landscape. Coprolites are fossilized feces. They preserve because feces often contain minerals and resistant material. They provide information about diet that skeletons can't. By analyzing coprolite contents, scientists can determine what ancient animals ate. These humble fossils are valuable data about prehistoric ecosystems. Most potential fossils never make it. Bones buried in sediment might be disturbed by burrowing animals or geological processes. The sediment might not turn to rock. Erosion might destroy the fossil before it's found. The conditions must remain stable for millions of years. Undisturbed long enough for the complete transformation from bone to stone. The fossil must then be discovered. Erosion or tectonic activity brings it near the surface after millions of years buried. Weathering exposes it. Someone happens to be in the right place to notice it. Most fossils are never found. They weather away unnoticed, or they remain buried forever. The fraction we find is tiny compared to all fossils that exist. Each fossil is therefore a miracle of probability. The organism had to die in the right place. Sediment had to bury it quickly. Chemistry had to be right. The fossil had to survive millions of years undisturbed. It had to be exposed by erosion. Someone had to find it. Each step is unlikely. The combination of all these unlikely events is astonishingly improbable. Yet, we have millions of fossils because billions of organisms died, and even tiny percentages of billions create substantial numbers. The fossil you see in a museum beat astronomical odds. That particular Triceratops skull spent 66 million years as stone, buried under hundreds of feet of sediment, surviving earthquakes and erosion, waiting to be exposed and found. Its discovery was luck layered upon luck upon luck. But its existence was real. The creature it preserves really lived, walked, ate, died. The fossil is both improbable evidence and undeniable proof that prehistoric life was real. Not imagination, but actual organisms that existed in actual ecosystems that really functioned on an Earth that really was. The stone bone in front of you is a time capsule, a messenger from deep time, telling you that life has been patient, persistent, and diverse beyond measure. Fossils show body structure, but rarely preserve soft tissue. We see bones, shells, occasionally skin impressions. From these hard parts, we can infer size and general shape. We know a Brachiosaurus was large with a long neck. We know Triceratops had 3 horns and a bony frill. These facts are certain, visible in the fossils themselves. We can infer muscle attachment from bone. Bones have ridges and bumps where muscles connected. Larger ridges suggest stronger muscles. By comparing with modern animals, we can estimate muscle size and therefore strength. A Tyrannosaurus rex had massive jaw muscles, evident from attachment points on its skull. We're confident it had powerful bite force, though the exact number is debated. posture and movement can be reconstructed from skeletal structure. Joint shapes show range of motion. Bone proportions indicate gait. We know Triceratops walked on 4 legs because of limb proportions and joint structures. We know some dinosaurs could run because their leg bones show adaptations for speed. These inferences are reliable when based on good skeletal evidence and comparison with living animals. But colour is usually guessed. Soft tissue rarely preserves colour information. In exceptional fossils, we found melanosomes, structures that contain pigment in feathers or skin. These can indicate colours, usually blacks, browns and reds. But most fossils lack this evidence. Artistic reconstructions choose colours based on modern animals or imagination. The actual colours remain unknown. We'll never know the sounds most dinosaurs made. Soft tissue of vocal organs doesn't preserve. Some dinosaurs had hollow crests that might have resonated, producing low-frequency calls. We can model these structures and predict sounds, but we can't be certain. Other dinosaurs might have bellowed, hissed, or roared, but without preserved vocal structures, we're guessing based on modern animal comparisons. Behaviour is inferred rather than known. Footprints suggest some dinosaurs travelled in herds because trackways show multiple individuals moving together. Nesting sites suggest colonial breeding and parental care, but many behaviours leave no trace. We don't know how dinosaurs courted mates, how they interacted socially in detail, or what individual personalities were like. These aspects of life don't fossilise. Metabolism is debated. Were dinosaurs warm-blooded like mammals, cold-blooded like modern reptiles, or something in between? Bone structure suggests relatively fast growth in many dinosaurs, implying warm-bloodedness. But the evidence isn't conclusive. Different dinosaur groups might have had different metabolisms. We continue gathering evidence, but certainty remains elusive. Internal anatomy is rarely preserved. Exceptional fossils sometimes show organs as mineralized structures or impressions. We found fossilized hearts, guts, even eggs with embryos inside. But these are rare. For most dinosaurs, we know nothing about organ arrangement, circulatory system details, or reproductive anatomy beyond what can be inferred from bones. Intelligence is particularly difficult to assess. Brain cases show brain size and rough shape. Relative brain size suggests intelligence levels, but the correlation isn't perfect. Birds have small brains, but are intelligent. We can estimate dinosaur intelligence relative to each other and to modern animals, but we can't know how they actually thought or processed information. Soft tissue like lips, ears, and other fleshy features don't preserve. Artistic reconstructions had these based on modern animals, but we're uncertain. Did Tyrannosaurus have lips covering its teeth, or were teeth exposed? Did some dinosaurs have elaborate soft tissue displays that left no fossil evidence? These features could dramatically change appearance, but remain unknown. Lifespan is estimated from growth rates visible in bone structure. Bones grow in layers, like tree rings. Counting these can indicate age at death. But not all individuals are preserved at death. The sample is biased towards certain ages and death circumstances. Average lifespans are educated guesses based on limited data. Diet can be inferred from teeth, jaw structure, and sometimes stomach contents. Teeth shape indicates whether an animal ate meat or plants. Coprolates show actual food items, but we don't know everything eaten. Occasional foods or soft foods that left no remains are invisible in the fossil record. Social structure is speculative. Did dinosaurs live in family groups? Were there dominance hierarchies? Did they cooperate in hunting or child rearing? Trackways and nesting sites provide clues, but many aspects of social life are invisible. We infer based on modern animal behavior, but we can't be certain dinosaurs behaved similarly. The daily life of a dinosaur remains mysterious. What did they do all day? How much time was spent feeding, resting, socializing? What challenges did individuals face? What did the world look like to them, smell like, sound like? These experiential questions can't be answered from fossils. We can know the physical facts, but not the subjective experience. Fossils are clues, not complete records. They tell us partial stories, leaving much to inference and imagination. The dinosaur in a museum is a reconstruction, assembled from bones and scientific guesses. It's our best approximation based on available evidence, but it's not certainly accurate in all details. As new fossils are found and new techniques developed, our understanding improves. But some questions will never be answered. The subjective experience of being a triceratops, what it felt like to live as a dinosaur, that's lost to time. We can know structure and infer function, but the inner life, the consciousness if any, the daily reality of existence, that remains mysterious, gone with the last breath of the last individual, preserved in stone but silent about what it was really like to be alive. For every creature that fossilized, millions didn't. The vast majority of organisms that ever lived left no trace. They died, decayed completely, and vanished. Their atoms scattered and were reused by other organisms. Nothing remains to prove they existed. This is normal, the expected outcome of death. Fossilization is the rare exception, not the rule. Consider a single species of dinosaur that existed for 2 million years. Each individual lived perhaps 20 to 30 years. That means roughly 70,000 generations. If the population numbered 100,000 individuals at any time, perhaps 7 billion individuals of that species lived across its existence. Of these billions, we might have fossils of dozens or hundreds. The rest left no evidence. Entire species lived and went extinct without leaving fossils. We know this must be true because fossilization is so rare, and many environments don't preserve fossils at all. Species that lived in mountains where erosion is constant, or in forests where acidic soil dissolves bone, or in environments where burial was unlikely. These species probably left no fossils. They existed, but we'll never know about them. The fossil record has huge gaps. We know major groups appeared, but don't have fossils showing the transitions. Either the transitional forms existed, but didn't fossilize, or they lived in small populations, in environments that didn't preserve fossils. The gaps don't mean evolution didn't happen. They mean fossilization is selective and rare. Soft-bodied creatures rarely fossilize. Jellyfish, worms, slugs. These animals have existed for hundreds of millions of years, but left relatively few fossils. We know they were diverse and abundant from exceptional preservation sites, like the Burgess Shale. But most of the time, they died and decayed without trace. The fossil record is biased toward organisms with hard parts. Creatures living in mountains or uplands rarely fossilize. These environments erode rather than accumulate sediment. Any dead organism on a mountainside likely weathers away or gets carried by water to lower elevations. Mountain species from the past are largely invisible in the fossil record. ocean floor preservation is selective. Deep ocean sediments can preserve organisms, but the deep ocean floor recycles through plate tectonics. Seafloor older than 200 million years has been subducted and destroyed. Any fossils from older deep oceans are gone, melted in Earth's interior. We can only study marine life from continental shelves and shallow seas where sediments aren't subducted. Many fossils that formed have been destroyed. Rocks containing fossils can be eroded away, the fossils weathering to nothing. Metamorphism, when rocks are heated and compressed, destroys fossils. Mountain building crumples rock, breaking fossils into unrecognizable fragments. The fossils we have survived all these processes. Most didn't. Fossilization requires unlikely coincidences. The organism must die in a place where sediment accumulates. Burial must happen before decay. The sediment must have right chemistry for mineral replacement. The rock must avoid metamorphism for millions of years. Erosion must expose the fossil at the surface. Someone must find it before it weathers away. Each step is improbable. The sample we have is biased in multiple ways. We have more fossils from marine environments because oceans accumulate sediment. We have more recent fossils because older ones have had more time to be destroyed. We have more fossils from organisms with hard parts. We have more fossils from common species than rare ones. The fossil record isn't a random sample of past life. It's skewed toward preservable organisms in preservable environments. This means the true diversity of prehistoric life was far greater than fossils reveal. For every species we know from fossils, many others existed but left no evidence. The number of species, the variety of forms, the complexity of ecosystems, all were greater than the fossil record shows. What we see is a minimum, a floor below which diversity definitely was, but we don't know how much higher it actually reached. Even groups well represented in fossils have invisible members. We have many dinosaur species from fossils, but surely others existed that we'll never find. The total number of dinosaur species that ever existed might be 10 or 100 times more than we know from fossils. Each known species hints at unknown relatives that didn't preserve. Individual variation is mostly invisible. We might have one fossil of a species and assume it represents the typical form, but populations vary. Some individuals are larger, others smaller. Colors varied. Behaviors differed. One fossil can't capture this variation. We see an example, not the full range of individual differences. Rare behaviors and features that left no trace are unknown. If some dinosaurs had elaborate mating displays using colorful soft tissue, we'd never know. If others had behavioral quirks that didn't affect bones, we're ignorant. The fossil record shows what preserved, not what existed. The knowledge we do have is precious because it's so fragmentary. Each fossil is a data point representing millions of individuals. Each species known from fossils might represent a family of related species we'll never discover. The entire fossil record is a tiny sample of the vastness of prehistoric life. Yet this sample teaches us immense amounts. From fragmentary evidence, we've reconstructed ecosystems, understood evolution, seen patterns in deep time. The gaps are real, but the signal is strong enough to reveal major truths about life's history. We work with incomplete data, acknowledging what we don't know while learning from what we do. The rarity of fossils makes each one precious, a survivor against all odds, a messenger from deep time telling us that life was rich, diverse, and vast beyond our ability to fully document, but real enough to leave at least these traces, these stone monuments to existence, these improbable survivors teaching us about the invisible majority. They represent Earth, formed 4.6 billion years ago. This number is so large it loses meaning. Your mind can't truly grasp a billion years. You can say the number, but experiencing the duration is impossible. A billion seconds is about 32 years. A billion minutes is 1,900 years. A billion hours is 114,000 years. A billion years is 1,000 million years, a time span beyond human comprehension. Life began around 3.8 billion years ago. From Earth's formation to first life was 800 million years. Time enough for the planet to cool, for oceans to form, for chemistry to create the first self-replicating molecules. Those early cells then had billions of years to evolve, mostly remaining single-celled, slowly changing Earth's chemistry and preparing conditions for complex life. Complex multicellular life emerged around 600 million years ago. From first cells to complex organisms took over 3 billion years. This is the vast majority of life's history, spent as single cells. The diverse complex life we're familiar with, animals and plants and fungi, is a recent addition, less than 1/6 of life's total history. Dinosaurs existed from 230 to 65 million years ago, about 165 million years. This seems immense, and it is, but it's only about 4% of Earth's history. Dinosaurs were dominant for a long time by our standards, but brief in geological terms. They appeared, thrived, and went extinct within a small slice of Earth's timeline. Modern humans, Homo sapiens, emerged about 300,000 years ago. This is a blink in geological time. On a timeline where Earth's history is 1 year, humans appear in the last few hours. We're extraordinarily recent, so new that calling us permanent residents of Earth is premature. We haven't existed long enough to claim longevity. To understand the scale, imagine Earth's 4.6 billion year history compressed into 24 hours. Earth forms at midnight. Life appears around 4 a.m. Early morning, but after significant waiting. For most of the day, only microbes exist. Complex life doesn't appear until about 8:30 p.m., late evening. Land colonization happens around 9:30 p.m. Dinosaurs appear at 10:56 p.m., dominate for a little over an hour, and go extinct at 11:39 p.m. Mammals diversify after 11:39 p.m., filling niches left by dinosaurs. Early primates appear around 11:52 p.m. Hominids, our direct ancestors, appear at 11:58 p.m. Modern humans emerge at 11:58:43 p.m., less than 80 seconds before midnight. All of recorded human history, all of civilization, happens in the last second of the day. Agriculture, writing, cities, everything we think of as human achievement, fits in the last fraction of a second. This perspective is humbling. We're so recent. Our entire species' existence is negligible on geological timescales. We appeared moments ago. We haven't been tested by deep time. Species that last millions of years have proven longevity. We've barely started our run. It's also calming. The timescales make human concerns seem temporary. Your problems are real, but brief against this backdrop. Civilizations rise and fall in geological instants. Mountains erode. Species come and go. The patient turning of deep time puts everything in perspective. Nothing human is permanent on geological scales. The fossil record spans this immense time. Rocks from 3.5 billion years ago contain possible evidence of early life. Rocks from every period since hold fossils of organisms from those times. Walking through a museum's fossil collection is walking through time, seeing successive forms from different eras, each preserved in stone, each representing a moment in the vast sweep. Trilobites existed for 270 million years, appearing in the Cambrian and going extinct in the Permian. This is longer than dinosaurs lasted. Trilobites were successful for a vast span, dominating seafloors, adapting to changing conditions, surviving multiple extinction events before finally succumbing. Yet, they're gone completely now. No descendants. An entire successful design erased. Sharks have existed for over 400 million years. Their basic body plan proved so successful, it persisted almost unchanged. Different species came and went, but sharks as a group survived everything that killed other lineages. They've outlasted trilobites, dinosaurs, countless other groups. Longevity belongs to those who adapt to changing conditions while maintaining successful basic designs. Crocodilians have been around for about 240 million years, longer than dinosaurs lasted. They survived the end Cretaceous extinction that killed dinosaurs. They're still here, relatively unchanged from ancient forms. What makes a lineage persistent? Adaptability, generalist lifestyles, luck, all play roles. Trees appeared about 385 million years ago. Modern tree groups, like oaks and maples, are much younger, but the tree form itself is ancient. Trees transformed landscapes, created forest ecosystems, changed atmospheric composition. They've been a dominant life form for hundreds of millions of years. Comparing timescales helps. Humans have existed 300,000 years. Agriculture is 10,000 years old. Writing is 5,000 years old. Industrial civilization is 200 years old. These durations are invisible on geological scales. If Earth's history is a 1,000-page book, human history is a footnote on the last page. Civilization is a sentence in that footnote. This isn't to diminish human importance. You're here now. Your life matters in the present. But seeing yourself in deep time provides perspective. You're part of an ongoing story billions of years old. You're the latest expression of patterns stretching back to the first cells. You're temporary, as all individuals are, but connected to something vastly larger and older than yourself. The atoms in you have been cycling for billions of years. They'll continue after you. You're a momentary arrangement of ancient material, conscious briefly, experiencing now, part of deep time's patient unfolding. To a Triassic reptile, the world seemed eternal. The ecosystems it knew had existed for as long as any individual could perceive. The plants, the prey, the predators, all seemed permanent fixtures. If that reptile could think about such things, it might assume the world would always be this way. But it was wrong. The Triassic world eventually ended, replaced by something different. To a Jurassic dinosaur, the great forests and the communities within them seemed unchanging. Sauropods had grazed for millions of years. Predatory dinosaurs had hunted for generations beyond counting. The arrangement felt stable, as if it had always existed and always would. But the Jurassic ended. A new period began. Different species emerged. The permanent world transformed. To a Cretaceous ecosystem, the current state seemed final. Dinosaurs dominated land. They'd been dominant for over 100 million years. Their success seemed assured. The world had been this way longer than the entire age of mammals that followed. Surely, this was how things would always be. Then, the asteroid struck. Everything changed. The permanent became temporary. Every era felt permanent to its inhabitants. The organisms living through a period experienced stability. They didn't see the slow changes accumulating. Each generation saw essentially the same world their parents saw. The illusion of permanence was strong because change happened too slowly to perceive within lifetimes, or even within hundreds of generations. But every era ended. The Cambrian seas teemed with trilobites and strange arthropods. This seemed like the natural state of oceans. Then the period ended. New species appeared. Old ones went extinct. The Cambrian fauna was replaced gradually by Ordovician fauna, which seemed just as permanent until it too was replaced. The coal forests of the Carboniferous seemed eternal. Vast swamps covered much of the land. Giant club mosses and tree ferns dominated. The forests had existed for tens of millions of years. They shaped the atmosphere, created the landscape. Then climate changed, the forests declined, new plant communities took over. The coal forest world ended. The Permian world, dominated by synapsids and early reptiles, seemed like it would continue indefinitely. Then, the Great Dying Extinction reset everything. 90% of species went extinct. The survivors rebuilt ecosystems from scratch. The new world bore little resemblance to what came before. The permanent had been temporary all along. Even dominant species had finite runs. Trilobites seemed permanent features of oceans for 270 million years. They were diverse, successful, apparently immortal as a group. Then, the Permian extinction finished them. All trilobites went extinct. No descendants survived. An entire design, successful for hundreds of millions of years, vanished completely. The lesson is that nothing lasts forever. Every arrangement is temporary. The world that seems stable is actually in slow transition. What exists now will eventually be replaced by something different. This is neither good nor bad. It's simply how deep time works. Stability is local and temporary. Change is global and inevitable. Current ecosystems feel permanent to us. Rainforests seem ancient and unchanging. Oceans seem eternal. The diversity we see seems like it was always here. But it's all recent. Most current species evolved in the last few million years. The exact arrangement of ecosystems is temporary. In millions of years, everything will be different. Humans feel permanent to ourselves. We've existed for 300,000 years, long by our standards. We dominate Earth, shape ecosystems, fill every terrestrial environment. It's easy to assume we'll always be here, but deep time suggests otherwise. Every dominant group eventually declines or goes extinct. Why would we be different? We might go extinct like dinosaurs did. A catastrophe could end humanity despite our technology. Or we might evolve into something different. Our descendants so changed, they'd be a new species. Or we might persist unchanged for millions of years. Though this seems unlikely, given how rapidly we're changing ourselves and our environment. But we won't last forever in current form. This might seem depressing, but it's actually freeing. If nothing lasts forever, there's no pressure for permanence. Everything is temporary experiment. The world will change regardless of what we do. Our impact is real but finite. The planet will outlast us, as it outlasted dinosaurs and trilobites, and every other organism. The impermanence includes suffering. Bad situations don't last forever either. Extinctions end, ecosystems recover. Life continues and adapts. The Permian extinction seemed like the end of life, but it wasn't. Life rebuilt, diversified, continued. The worst catastrophes prove temporary when viewed across sufficient time. It includes joy too. Good times don't last. Species thrive, then decline. Ecosystems flourish, then transform. Nothing is preserved in amber. But this means new good times can arise. After extinctions come recoveries and new evolutionary experiments. The end of one good era makes space for a different good era. The peaceful acceptance of impermanence is one of deep time's gifts. Nothing is permanent, so nothing requires permanent protection. Everything changes, so change is natural. Fighting against change is fighting against time itself, an unwinnable battle. Better to accept that the current arrangement is temporary, appreciate it while it lasts, and prepare for whatever comes next. Tonight, as you consider prehistoric life, remember that those creatures lived in worlds that seemed permanent but weren't. They experienced their time as normal, stable, ongoing. They couldn't see the larger patterns. From outside, we see that their worlds were temporary. Our world is too. This moment is brief against deep time. The arrangements around you will change. Species will go extinct. New species will evolve. Continents will move. Climate will shift. None of this is soon by human standards, but it's inevitable by geological standards. The permanent is always temporary when given enough time. The unchanging eventually changes. The eternal isn't. Every living thing today descends from prehistoric survivors. The extinction events killed most species, but some made it through. Your lineage is part of that survivor group. Every one of your ancestors, going back millions of years, survived when others died. You exist because of an unbroken chain of survival through multiple mass extinctions and countless smaller catastrophes. 5 major mass extinctions punctuate Earth's history. The End Ordovician, 440 million years ago. The Late Devonian, 375 million years ago. The Permian, 252 million years ago. The Triassic-Jurassic, 200 million years ago. The Cretaceous, 65 million years ago. Your ancestors survived all 5. Not just survived, but reproduced, passing life forward despite the chaos around them. The mammals that survived the asteroid impact 65 million years ago were your direct ancestors. They were small, probably nocturnal, eating insects and seeds. They could burrow, protecting themselves from immediate impact effects. They were generalists, able to eat varied foods when preferred prey was scarce. These traits, which seemed minor during the Mesozoic when dinosaurs dominated, became crucial for survival when catastrophe struck. After the extinction, these survivor mammals diversified. Some became larger, filling niches left empty by dinosaurs. Some became herbivores, browsers and grazers replacing the herbivorous dinosaurs. Some became predators, taking over from the carnivorous dinosaurs. From a few small species, mammals radiated into the incredible diversity we see today, plus many extinct groups. Your specific lineage led to primates. Early primates evolved about 55 million years ago. Tree-dwelling mammals with grasping hands, forward-facing eyes for depth perception, and relatively large brains. They lived in tropical forests, eating fruit, insects, and leaves. These early primates were our ancestors, though they were very different from modern primates. Primates survived climate changes that drove many mammal groups extinct. About 34 million years ago, global cooling reduced tropical forests. Many primate species went extinct. Those that survived, including your ancestors, were adaptable enough to persist in changing conditions. Survival required flexibility, the ability to adjust when environments shifted. The lineage leading to humans went through apes, then hominids, then humans. Each transition involved anatomical changes and new capabilities. Apes lost tails, became larger, developed more complex social behaviors. Hominids began walking upright, freeing hands for tool use. Humans developed large brains, complex language, and cumulative culture. Each stage built on what came before, a series of modifications to the primate template. Birds are living dinosaurs, the only dinosaur lineage that survived the Cretaceous extinction. Modern birds descend from small theropod dinosaurs, probably relatives of Velociraptor and similar species. These birds survived when their larger relatives died. Today, with over 10,000 species, birds are more diverse than mammals. The dinosaur lineage didn't end, it continued through birds, adapting to the post-impact world. Every species alive today carries genetic legacy from extinct ancestors. Your DNA contains genes inherited from fish ancestors, from early tetrapods, from early mammals, from ancient primates. Most of your genes are ancient, shared with many other species, because they come from common ancestors. The specifically human genes, those that make us distinct from other primates, are recent additions to a very old genetic foundation. Plants alive today also descend from prehistoric survivors. Flowering plants, which appeared about 130 million years ago, survived the Cretaceous extinction. They diversified afterward, becoming the dominant plant group. Grasses evolved about 50 million years ago and now cover vast areas. Trees have evolved independently in many plant lineages, the tree form proving successful again and again. Insects survived all the mass extinctions with less damage than many groups. Their small size, varied diets, and short generation times made them resilient. Modern insects include lineages hundreds of millions of years old. Dragonflies, cockroaches, and many other groups date back to the Paleozoic. They've watched entire eras come and go while persisting with relatively little change. The lesson is continuity. Life didn't restart after extinctions. It continued through survivors, carrying forward genetic information from before the catastrophe. You're connected to prehistoric life, not abstractly, but literally, through unbroken descent from organisms that lived hundreds of millions of years ago. The connection is physical, recorded in your DNA, visible in your body structure. Your skeleton echoes fish ancestors. The bones in your hand correspond to bones in a fish's fin. The arrangement is modified, but homologous. The same structures adapted for different purposes. Your spine recalls early tetrapods. Your warm-bloodedness comes from early mammals. Your forward-facing eyes from early primates. Every feature has history. You are prehistoric life continuing, not a separate creation, but a modification of ancient patterns. The first cells, the first animals, the first mammals, all of these are your ancestors. Their genetic information persists in you, changed and elaborated, but recognizably descended from ancient forms. You carry deep time in your body, in your genes, in your fundamental structure. This continuity also means responsibility. The lineages that survived did so through adaptation and luck. We're temporary stewards of genetic information billions of years old. Our choices affect whether this information continues forward. We can destroy lineages that survived for millions of years. We can protect them, allowing them to continue. The choice has weight when you understand the deep history at stake. But it also means hope. Life has persisted through worse than anything humans can do. The Permian extinction killed 90% of species, yet life recovered. The asteroid impact was catastrophic, yet here we are. Life is resilient beyond our ability to destroy it. We can cause extinctions. We are causing them. But we probably can't end life entirely. The survivors, whatever they are, will continue the story. Tonight, you carry prehistoric life forward. You are the latest iteration of patterns billions of years old. The atoms in you cycled through ancient organisms. The genes in you descend from the first cells. You're not separate from prehistoric life, but continuous with it. The same story still unfolding, the same project of living and adapting and continuing. That began when the first cell divided and hasn't stopped since. You are ancient life in a modern form, carrying forward a history longer than mountains, older than oceans, persistent as time itself. Someday, the current world will be prehistoric. Millions of years from now, if any beings exist to study the past, our era will be a layer in rock. They'll find fossils from our time and try to reconstruct what life was like. They'll wonder about us, about our world, about what we were like. We'll be as mysterious to them as trilobites are to us. Some human bones will fossilize. Not many. Fossilization is rare, even for abundant species. But with billions of humans alive, and billions more who lived, a few will end up in the right conditions. Perhaps someone who drowned in a river will be quickly buried by sediment. Perhaps bones in a cave will be protected from scavengers and gradually mineralize. These rare individuals will represent humanity in the distant future's fossil record. Our buildings might leave traces. Steel and concrete will mostly decompose, but foundations might persist as compressed layers in sedimentary rock. The outlines of cities could appear as anomalous patterns in geological surveys. Future geologists might detect buried structures and wonder what they were, how they formed, what purpose they served. Plastic will definitely persist. It doesn't decompose on geological timescales. The plastic we've created will work its way into sediments, creating a distinctive layer marking our era. Future beings might find a stratum rich in plastic fragments and know something unusual happened during this time. They might call our era the Plastic Age, defined by this strange non-natural material that suddenly appears and then persists. This plastic layer will be globally distributed. We've spread plastic across oceans and continents. Microplastics are everywhere, in sediments, in organisms, in the atmosphere. They'll settle into accumulating sediment and become part of the rock record. This will be one of our clearest signatures, a thin layer of persistent polymers marking when humanity existed. Nuclear residue will leave traces too. The radioactive isotopes from nuclear testing and accidents have spread globally. They're settling into sediments and ice cores. Future scientists studying our strata will detect unusual isotope ratios and know something happened. Some event that spread radioactive material worldwide. They might infer we had technology that manipulated atoms. Extinctions we've caused will be visible. The sudden disappearance of many large mammal species will show up in the fossil record as abrupt absences. Species that existed for millions of years suddenly vanish from the record. This pattern of selective extinction targeting large animals will suggest an unusual cause, not the random killing of typical extinction events. but something that specifically affected certain size classes. Our domesticated animals will leave confusing fossils. Cows, dogs, chickens. These are so different from their wild ancestors that future paleontologists might not recognize them as related. The sudden appearance of these strange forms, clearly animals, but with unusual features, might puzzle future scientists. They might not realize these were deliberately created through selective breeding. Plant fossils will show we grew crops. The distribution of certain plant species will be unusual, concentrated in certain areas at certain times. Corn, wheat, rice. These plants might fossilize in patterns suggesting intentional cultivation. Their sudden abundance in the fossil record, then possible disappearance if they can't survive without humans, will be a clue about our influence. Carbon isotope ratios will indicate fossil fuel burning. Carbon from fossil fuels has a distinctive isotopic signature. When we burn coal and oil, this signature enters the atmosphere and eventually sediments. Future geologists analyzing our layer will find anomalous carbon ratios and might infer we released ancient carbon into the atmosphere on a massive scale. The extinction boundary might be sharp. If human civilization collapses or humanity goes extinct, the fossil record will show a sudden change. Many species disappear. Distinctive markers like plastic and unusual isotopes appear. The climate record, preserved in sediments and ice, will show rapid changes. Future scientists will recognize this as an extinction event, probably debating its cause like we debate dinosaur extinction, or perhaps will persist, evolve, spread beyond Earth. In that case, our current fossils will be like early hominid fossils to us. Interesting ancestors, but not the end of the story. Future descendants might study our bones and artifacts, learning about their evolutionary history, seeing us as primitive versions of themselves. Most likely, we'll be represented by fragmentary evidence. A few bones here, some plastic there, confused patterns that suggest something unusual. Future paleontologists will construct theories from incomplete data, debating what humans were like, how we lived, why we disappeared if we did. They'll be wrong about many details, like we're wrong about dinosaur colors and behaviors. They won't know what we felt, what we feared, what we hoped. They won't know our thoughts, our dreams, our daily concerns. The subjective experience of being human will be lost, preserved in no fossil, recorded in no rock layer. They'll see our bones and artifacts, but won't know what it was like to be us, to experience consciousness in our particular way. The irony is, we're creating this future fossil record now. Every plastic bottle thrown away is a future fossil. Every bone buried is a potential future discovery. We're making the layer that will represent our era. We're deciding, through our actions and choices, what evidence of ourselves we leave for deep time. In a 100 million years, most traces will be gone. Our cities will have eroded completely. The plastic will still be there, but scattered and fragmented. The isotope signatures will have faded through radioactive decay. Only the extinction pattern, and perhaps a few strange fossils, will indicate something unusual happened during our brief time. This perspective is humbling. We feel important now, and we are in the present. But in deep time, we're one brief episode in a very long story. We'll leave traces, but they'll be subtle, easy to miss, hard to interpret. Future beings might not even realize how significant we thought we were. We might be a footnote, a minor extinction event, a brief anomaly in an otherwise slow progression. Yet, we're here now. Our fossils don't exist yet, except as our current bones and artifacts. We're living the time that will someday be studied as prehistory. We're creating the geological record of our era through our daily actions. This moment, right now, is the past of some distant future. You are part of what will be studied, analysed, wondered about by beings perhaps very different from you, trying to understand what life was like when humans walked Earth, when you breathed and thought and experienced this particular moment that will someday be ancient history, compressed into a layer of rock, a puzzle for future minds to decipher. And so we return to this moment, to tonight, to you, resting as sleep approaches. The vast span of prehistoric time puts everything in perspective. Your concerns are real but temporary. Your life is brief against geological time, but meaningful in the present. The ground beneath you holds billions of years of patient change. Deep time recorded in stone. Stories of life that came before. Life persisted through catastrophes that seem unsurvivable. 90% extinctions, asteroid impacts, climate swings, volcanic eruptions lasting hundreds of thousands of years. Through all of this, life continued. Not the same life, not unchanged, but continuous. Survivors adapted, evolved, rebuilt. The resilience is profound. Nothing yet has been enough to end life entirely. You're part of this continuity. The atoms in your body cycled through prehistoric organisms. The genes in your cells descend from the first life. Your body's structure echoes ancient forms, modified but recognizable. Fish fins became your arms. Early mammal bones shaped your skeleton. Primate eyes gave you vision. You are ancient life in a modern expression. The patience of deep time is calming. Nothing rushed in Earth's history. Changes happened slowly, often invisibly to those living through them. Millions of years passed between major events. Species existed for vast spans, then gradually evolved or went extinct. The slow pace makes human urgency seem temporary and manageable. Tonight, if you've found peace in these facts about prehistoric life, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to our channel. We create journeys through science and history like this regularly, helping you understand the world while preparing for sleep. Tomorrow night, we'll explore another topic, another way of seeing, another path to peaceful rest. Leave a comment sharing where you're watching from and what prehistoric creature fascinates you most. Maybe you love trilobites or wonder about the dinosaurs. Maybe ammonites or early mammals interest you. Share your connection to deep time, and we'll be here tomorrow with more quiet facts to carry you into sleep. For now, release thoughts about the distant past. The ancient world existed, taught its lessons, and is gone. You live in the present, this brief moment that will someday be ancient history, but is now immediate and real. Your life happens in this moment, not in deep time, but in the fleeting now. The atoms that built ancient organisms built you. They're on loan, borrowed briefly for your life, soon to be recycled into other forms. This is natural, not frightening. It's the cycle that has operated for billions of years. You're a temporary arrangement of ancient material, conscious for a while, experiencing now, then returning to the pool of atoms from which the next arrangements will be built. Your body knows how to rest. It's done this every night of your life. The pattern is old, shared with all animals that sleep. Rest is ancient. a biological necessity, older than complex brains, older than awareness itself. Even simple organisms have rest cycles. Your body follows patterns billions of years old. The prehistoric world was quiet in ways we can't imagine. No human voices, no machinery, no electronic sounds, just natural sounds, wind and water and animal calls. That ancient silence still exists in the deeper parts of night, under the modern noise. As you settle towards sleep, you touch that ancient quietness, the stillness that predates everything human. Life continued through disasters by being flexible. Species that survived were those that could adapt, that could tolerate changed conditions, that could find new ways when old ways failed. This flexibility is your inheritance. You can adapt, adjust, find rest despite whatever troubles the day held. The survivor species, your ancestors, gave you this capability. Deep time teaches that everything passes. The worst catastrophes ended. The best times also ended. Nothing is permanent. This moment of lying down to sleep is temporary. Tomorrow brings new moments. Years pass. Decades accumulate. Lifetimes come and go. All of it temporary. All of it part of the ongoing flow. There's comfort in this impermanence. Your problems won't last forever. Neither will your current state, your current self. You're changing constantly, cells replacing, thoughts shifting, never exactly the same person 2 moments in a row. Like species evolving, you're in constant flux, never static, always becoming. The planet will continue long after you. Life will persist. New species will evolve. Extinctions will happen. The slow dance of evolution and geology will go on. Your contribution is your moment, your brief experience, your small ripple in deep time. That's enough. You don't need to be permanent to matter. Tonight, you rest like countless organisms rested before you. Lying still, breathing slowly, consciousness fading towards sleep. This is ancient behavior, evolved hundreds of millions of years ago, perfected through countless generations. Your body knows this pattern. Trust it. The wisdom of deep time is in your cells, in your nervous system, in the automatic processes that guide you towards sleep. The ground supports you, like it supported dinosaurs, trilobites, early mammals, every creature that ever rested. The same gravity pulls you down. The same need for sleep calls you toward rest. You're doing what life has always done, alternating activity with rest, wakefulness with sleep, continuation with pause. Let the perspective of deep time ease your mind. In billions of years, mountains erode, continents move, species come and go. Your worries, real as they are now, are temporary against this backdrop. Not insignificant, but temporary. They'll pass, like everything passes, swept along in time's patient current. Feel the ancient atoms that make you. Star stuff, recycled through countless forms, currently arranged as you. This arrangement is temporary. The atoms are eternal, or as close to eternal as anything gets. They'll continue after you, building new forms, participating in new lives, part of the ongoing cycle. The first cells that appeared 3.8 billion years ago started a chain that led to you. That chain never broke, never paused, continued through every catastrophe and calm period, through extinctions and radiations, through ice ages and warm periods, through the rise and fall of countless species, all the way to this moment. You're the current endpoint of that chain, the newest link in the oldest connection. Sleep is a return to unconsciousness, a temporary release from awareness. In a small way, It echoes the long unconsciousness of death, but safely, temporarily. You practice death every night when you sleep, releasing control, trusting your body to maintain itself, surrendering to processes beyond conscious direction. And every morning you return, consciousness re-emerging, the practice ending, life continuing. Tonight's sleep is one of thousands in your life, one of trillions in Earth's history. Nothing special, nothing unique. Just another organism resting, another moment of stillness in the vast activity of life. But it's your moment, your rest, your body settling into patterns billions of years old. The ancient Earth was patient. It waited billions of years for complex life to emerge. It survived catastrophes that reshaped entire ecosystems. It continued, persistent, patient, inexhaustible in its capacity for time. That same patience is available to you. You don't have to rush. Time moves at its own pace. Your rest tonight is unhurried, taking as long as it takes, patient as geology. Release into sleep, knowing you're part of deep time, connected to everything that came before, made of the same substance as ancient life, following the same patterns of activity and rest. Temporary but real, brief but meaningful. One moment in the vast progression that has no beginning. You can find and no ending you can see. Just the ongoing patience of life, continuing, adapting, persisting, and tonight, resting.